So hi all, welcome to this video lecture. In this video lecture we will look at the requests module in Python. So the request module in Python is a third-party library which is used to send HTTP requests in a simple and human-friendly way. It allows you to interact with web services and APIs over the internet, making it easy to perform operations like the GET request, the POST request and the delete operations. Okay, so if you don't have the request module, you can simply go ahead and you can simply type pip install requests, okay, and hit on enter, and it will go ahead and it will install it for you. If you have already installed, it will say that it is already installed. Okay, since I have already got it installed, so let's go ahead and let's import the request module. Okay, I will say import and I will then type in requests. Okay, for this demo we will also import the JSON module as well. Okay, now for this particular demo, right, we will be working with this particular web API, okay, the placeholder.typio.com/posts. okay, so using this particular web API, right, we will be fetching all these details and we will be incorporating it. We will be calling within the Python script. Okay, so let us see how we can get the information using this request module. Okay, so for us to get the request, we will just simply say dataset is equals to requests dot, we will use the get method, and within this we will pass in the URL over here. So URL is equals to, and we will be passing it like this. And if I go ahead and if I say print dataset dot text, it will go ahead and it will get us the result. So you can just see that this has given me the result in text format, right? It has given me the entire result in text format. Okay, but remember, this is in text format. This is not actually a list of JSON. Okay, this is not a list of JSON. And how you can verify this is in text format? If you just go ahead and if you run a loop, right, for I in dataset dot text, and if I just say print I, you will see that individual characters are getting printed, right? So this is what it indicates, that this is actually a text. This is not a list of JSON, right? So this is dataset.text. If I want to go ahead and if I want to check what is the status code, okay, of this particular request, right, since it has run and since it has given me the result, so the status code should be 200. Okay, so status code, for checking the status code we will use dot status code and we will be running this, and it has given me a status code of 200. Okay, if we want to check whether the data has values or not, right, it's not null, so I can just go ahead and I can just type in .ok, and it will give me a boolean value. If it has data, then it will type true. If not, then it will go ahead and type false. Since it has data, so it will go ahead and it will pass the true value. Okay, so this is for the get. Now we have the post request, in which we post the data inside this particular data set. So let us go ahead and let us write the code for posting the request inside this. Now we have seen for the get, now we will post the request, okay, in this particular data set, right? So let us go ahead and let us see that. Okay, so for that, right, we will be creating a class. Okay, let us create a class, and the name of the class that I will provide, I will call this class as, let's say, requester. Okay, and then I will go ahead and I will give this def init, and I will say self comma, and here what I will do, here I am going to go ahead and pass in the URL, right? So I will just say URL, and this should be of string format, and this will be only the URL for the moment. Okay, and I will just say simply say self dot URL is equals to URL. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the data. So for getting the data, I will just create a function get data. Okay, and within this function I will go ahead and I will say pass in self comma parameters. Okay, and parameters I will pass it as none. Okay, and I will just tell you the function of the parameter just shortly. Okay, and here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say data is equals to the data that I will be getting. Okay, the requests dot get, and here I will be just typing in self dot URL comma the params should be equals to parameter. Okay, and I will return the data from there. Okay, so what is the use of this params? Okay, this parameter. Now if you just go ahead, if I just go ahead and if I print the data set over here, right, the data set dot text here. Okay, if I go ahead and if I run this, okay, if you just see, if I want to only go ahead and let's say I want to print the user ID 10, right, only for the user ID 10. If I go to this data, right, you will just see that this data has user ID ranging from 1 to 100, right, 1 to 10, right. So I only want to get the data for the user ID that is, let's say 10, right, or let's say 5. So how will I go ahead and how will I do that? So it turns out that within request model you have the privilege to go ahead and you can pass these values and you can get only that specific information, and the way how you're going to pass these values is using the parameters. So I will just go ahead and I will declare a parameter over here, and this should be a dictionary. Okay, so I will just say user ID, and you have to keep in mind that the key that you are mentioning over here must match with the key that is present in the response in this particular JSON, or else it will not work. So user ID should be, let's say I want to find the the details for the user ID that is 5. Now over here if I go ahead and if I just pass in params is equals to parameter, right, and if I go ahead and if I run this now, you will see I will only get the the response for the parameter that for the user ID that is 5. Okay, so this is the use case. Okay, this is the use of the parameters over here. It helps us in filtering out the response. Okay, what data that we need, we don't need the entire data, we only need the required data, and what is the required data, you can mention that in the parameters. Okay, so that's why I've mentioned over here in this function parameters equals to none, making this as an optional field. If you don't mention the parameters, it will give you the entire result, but if you have any parameters, then go ahead and pass it over here. Okay, so let us now, this is for the get data. Now let us create a function for post data. Okay, so for posting this data, right, for posting this data, what we are going to do, we are going to say data, we will say self comma value underscore JSON. Now for posting, right, for posting we need to go ahead and we need to pass some information, we need to pass some data, right. If I go ahead and if I say data is equals to request dot post, and within this you will pass in the URL equals to this, and here if you just see here, you need to go ahead and you need to pass in the data over here. Okay, and the data needs to be in a JSON format. Okay, in a dictionary format basically. Okay, so the data has to be in this particular format where the key has to be exactly the same. Okay, and values is something that you can go ahead and you can paste it accordingly, right. So if I go ahead and if I just say value is equals to, okay, this, let me remove this one. And if I place it over here. Yes. Okay, so now if you just see, now if you just see, right, I have just provided this particular dictionary, and if I go ahead and if I pass in the value over here, right, this comma data is equals to value over here, and if I print this data dot text, it is saying indentation expected. Okay, let's give here pass. You will see that it will give you this particular post data. Okay, whatever you have posted over here, you see it has given you that particular value. Okay, ignore the ID for the time being. Okay, the reason why the ID is giving it is 101. Okay, the reason why this is 101, because this is a fake API, okay, that we are using for practice. So you cannot go ahead and perform post operation in this particular API. But if it would have been an actual API that you are working with, okay, then definitely this would have gone ahead and it would have created a post request. Okay, the value would have been added for this particular user ID using this. Okay, so this is the use of this post request dot post, and this data equals to value, right? So that is what we are doing over here. We are creating this we will be passing this value underscore JSON, and within this post data, what we are going to check, we are going to go ahead and check that if the value is if the value is present, right? If somebody has provided the value underscore JSON, if somebody has provided the ID value within this value underscore JSON, right, then we are going to go ahead and check if that value already exists, then we will update it with the latest value, right? Latest value means the highest value plus one, right? And if not, then we will paste as it is. Okay, and if someone has not provided the ID value within the value underscore JSON, then we will also update that value with the highest value plus one. So we will just see what do we mean by the highest value plus one. Okay, so first and foremost, we are going to go ahead and we are going to store the data. Okay, so data will be equals to self dot, now we will be calling this function, that is the get data, because obviously we need to get the data first in order for us to go ahead and check whether what is the highest value for that particular in that particular data, right? If the data is okay, that means if the data exists, right, then we are going to initialize data underscore JSON, and we are going to say JSON dot loads. So we are going to use this function JSON, and I have discussed in details about this function. You can watch the video, you can click the link at the top and you will find about this particular module that I have discussed, JSON. Okay, so JSON dot loads, sorry, what JSON dot loads will do, it will go ahead and it will convert the JSON text into a dictionary. Okay, and I will pass in over here data dot text. Okay, and I will say, now this has given me the data underscore JSON. Okay, this has converted this entire thing into JSON. Okay, now what I'm going to check, I'm going to check that if my ID, okay, is not in value underscore JSON, because the value underscore JSON has to be in this format only, dot keys. Okay, then what I will do, I will go ahead and I will initialize ID, let's say a variable known as ID equals to 0, and I will say for I in data underscore JSON. That means so data underscore JSON is the list of JSON, right? It is a list of dictionaries over here. So when I say for I in data underscore JSON, so I becomes my individual dictionary over here. Okay, so I will say ID equals to max of this ID. So I'm trying to find out what is the max ID, right? So within this, if ID is 95, then 96, then 97. So what is the max ID over here? So this is the max ID, right? So 95 comma 96. Okay, so max will be 95 comma then this 96, so it will be updated with 96, then 96 comma 97, then it will be updated with 97. It's just like that. So id of I of the id. Okay, I of the id. So because I is my individual dictionary within this data JSON, right? Now what I'm going to do after this, right, after this is done, after I get the ID, then I will simply go ahead and I will update the ID value with this ID plus 1. Okay, so this is the max ID that I'm getting, max ID plus 1. Okay, and after this, now what we are going to check, if the ID is not present in this, that means somebody has not provided the ID, then we will update the ID. But let's say if somebody has provided the ID in the value underscore JSON, right, then we are going to check whether the ID that the user has provided, whether it already exists within this particular ID value or not. If it exists, right, if it exists, then we are going to go ahead and we are going to again perform this same operation over here, because two IDs, right, two same IDs cannot exist at the same time for a particular user ID, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to go ahead and we will be performing the same operation. So for that we will be creating a flag. Let's say flag equals to false. Okay, and I will check for I in data underscore JSON if the value underscore JSON of ID is equals to the individual dictionaries that we have of this particular ID. If it ever becomes equal at any stage, that means if the user has provided the ID which matches with any one of the ID present in the list of JSON, in that particular case we will set the flag value to true and we will break out. And now we are going to add a condition. If my flag value, right, so I'm going to just check if my flag value is equals to true, then in that particular case we will perform the same operation over here. That means we have found a colliding key value over here, an ID over here, right? So in order to solve that, we will go ahead and we will update it with the highest value, else we will leave as it is, right? Else we will not perform any operation. Whatever the user has given, we will populate as it is, right? And for this, what we will do, we'll go ahead and we will say dataset request.post, and here we will provide the self dot URL value and data will be equals to value underscore JSON, and we will return the dataset dot text. Okay, and let me see, where have I pasted this one? Over. Okay, this has to be pasted here, value underscore, because this is only going to return if the data exists, if data.ok is true, else just return -1, right? So now we are going to go ahead and create an object of the class requester, and here we are going to provide this particular URL over here, this one. Okay, and over here what I'm going to do, I'm going to say obj dot get data, and here I want to pass in a parameter, okay, just to showcase whether this works or not. User ID, and I will, let's say, pass 3. Okay, now user ID 3 is there, so this will run, it will return the datas, right? So if I just go ahead and if I say print, and let me store this in dataset equals to this, and I will say dataset dot text. So this should go ahead and it should give me the values only for 3. It is giving me the values only for 3. Okay, and now next what I'm going to do, instead of get data, I will go ahead and I will say obj dot post data. Okay, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass in the URL, comma, the value underscore JSON should be a particular value, right? So my value will be equals to a dictionary, and let's say I will be passing in this value only. Let us go ahead and provide this value. Okay, and here the ID is 30. So, okay, so 30 already exists. Okay, 30 already exists. So what I will do, let 30 already exists, right? So what this should return, this should go ahead and this should return me the updated value, that is the highest value plus 1, right? That is 101 from here, right? ID is 100, which is the maximum value, so it should go ahead and it should return me 101. So if I just go ahead and if I do print dataset.text, okay, it is already returning me dataset.text, so I will not do that. I will just pass in the dataset. If I go ahead and if I print this, is saying value underscore JSON, self comma value underscore. Okay, sorry, why this URL is here? We have already mentioned the URL here. Now this should work. Okay, this has given me the value over here. So for user ID 3 and for ID 101. Okay, now remember, just right now I said that this is actually a fake API, so this won't actually go ahead and provide me the actual it is not posting and it will not provide me the actual data, right? Even if I go ahead and if I, let's say, pass in 102 over here, right, it should give me 102 because 100 already exists, right? So anything between 1 to 100, if you pass any of the IDs over here in between 1 to 100, it will not go ahead and it is supposed to go ahead and give me 101 in that case. Okay, highest value plus 1. But let's say if you are not giving any ID between 1 to 100, right? If you are giving it like, let's say, 102, which should not exist, so it should go ahead and place as it is, whatever the user has provided, it should go ahead and it should update as it is. But if I go ahead and if I run this, it will still give me 101. See, it has still given me 101. Okay, and that is the reason, because this is actually a fake API, so it won't really post. If you are working with an actual API, this will work. Okay, so instead of returning the dataset underscore text dataset dot text, right, I will be showing you the value underscore JSON value. Okay, so if I go ahead and if I run this, you will see that this exactly is what is coming. okay, that is user ID is 3, ID value is 102, and this is the title and this is the body. Okay, but if I go ahead and if I place, let's say 45, it will give me 101. Okay, because it already exists, this ID already exists in this particular data. Okay, so this is all what we have for request module. Okay, and this is the way how we actually work with the request module. In case if you really enjoyed this session, then please don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel, and please don't forget to press the bell icon for notification. Thank you.